Yo, yo, yo. What it do, how it go? It's the Bill Joyner Morning Show, broadcasted to you live and direct from somewhere. So want to jump right into this, man. So there's a clip going around the socials of our boy Big X the Plug. I may or may not insert the clip into this video so that y'all can hear the whole context. You know what I mean? This is a really unrelated tangent, but there's some more drama. I told y'all I ain't watching no more or reading or listening to anything else about the Eagles until game day. You know what I mean? Unless it's coming from NBC Philadelphia, I'm not reading or listening to anything because now we got some other drama to deal with, largely because, you know, somebody, a journalist, you feel me, clipped a soundbite out of context and just ran with it. But whatever, I digress, man. So Big X the Plug, right? Basically, so again, and this is if I didn't put the clip in there, basically what he's saying is he's making the Lil Yachty argument, right? We had the same thing with Lil Yachty a few years ago. He says that, you know, he doesn't want to be seen as just a rap artist, but he wants to be seen as the biggest artist, period, which at face value doesn't sound like anything to get pressed about. But it's just, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall a lot of artists in recent memory who say, oh well, I don't want to just be, because here's the issue with it. And I think Anthony Fantano had a really good take on this, is that ultimately what this comes back to is that we collectively have this, for lack of better phrasing, and this is my phrasing here, we have a lack of respect for hip-hop as a genre, right? We don't view or consider hip-hop as being art. You dig what I'm saying? Hip-hop, for a lot of these rappers even, is not art to them. It is a vehicle to do any number of things, you know, to get out the ghetto, you know what I mean, to, as a platform to launch into other genres. The first example I think of is Post Malone. You got Jelly Roll, you got Lil Nas X, you can even throw him in there, but any number of things other than, you know, rapping for the love of the game, right? And I did this video, and this is where I'm gonna go a step further than Fantano, right? Because obviously, you know, Fantano can't go here. You know what I mean? It gets into something I was talking about yesterday with the rap fatigue video. And for those of y'all who ain't checked that out, go check that out. But long story short, for those of y'all who don't know what I realized is that I was so aggravated by that, I didn't even explain what rap fatigue is supposed to be. Rap fatigue is, you know, again, all of these, and from what I've seen, is all, if not all, is mostly black people talking about how, you know, they're tired of you know, mainstream rap, it's nothing but, you know, coochie rap, and YNs talking about, you know, objectifying women and shooting each other in the face and blah 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 blah. Basically the same old song and dance we've been getting since, that, you know, we're not against rap, we're against rapper, we're not against rap, we're not against rappers, but we are against those thugs, you know, it's the thuggish ruggish bone. That basically that same old song and dance again. And basically my argument against that was, if your knowledge of modern hip hop begins at Kendrick Lamar and ends somewhere between Cardi B and Playboy Cardi. Please shut the F up about what modern hip hop is and is not, because you're doing two things. I said this, and again, y'all could go watch the other video for the full take, but as with anything, I hate people who take the intro course and then decide that they're ready to teach a graduate class. I hate that. So, and it's not just with hip hop, it's with anything. It's shut up and let the heads in the room, you feel me, put you up on game, instead of being so quick, you feel me, to have your ego massaged, to have your ego jerked off by equally dumb and myopic Negroes as yourself. You feel me? And I don't just apply it to just niggas either. That's anybody. I hate people who do that. You feel me? So what it says to me is that you haven't done what it says to me is that, of course, you just absorbed everything that's coming into your top 40 recommendations, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And there may be an argument there that mainstream hip hop is, oversaturated with, coochie rap and street hop. Maybe there is an argument there. I don't know. I don't listen to enough mainstream artists to actually know whether that is true or not. But as I have said so many times in the past, if there is no market, there would be no supply. You feel me? Somebody is listening to NBA Youngboy. You feel me? Somebody is listening to Lil Tecca and who else? Somebody is listening to these, three-letter rappers. ABC Youngblood and whoever. You know what I mean? WBC. Get the bag. You know what I mean? Somebody is listening to these folk. You feel me? So you pointing the finger back at everybody who's following the trend, at everybody who's following the trend. Somebody is listening, you feel me, to the coochie bars. You feel me? Somebody is listening to Throat Baby. Oh, my coochie so wet, it's like a slip and slide. You get so deep in it, nigga, you might die. You know what I mean? Somebody is listening to that. You feel me? I got an endless throat. That's why they call me the GOAT. Somebody is listening to all of that. You feel me? So the question becomes, the question is, all my Pew babies got that reference. The question becomes, who does the blame really fall on? The people that is supplying the product, or the folk that keep consuming it? You feel me? Not only the folk that keep consuming it, but the folk that have, because again, who runs the music industry? It's old white dudes in suits. And like I said before, white people already have, this perception of what blackness is, of what black people are, and they're going to continue to feed themselves and continue to eat their own preconceived ideas of what blackness is or what black people are. And what that idea is sexy red. That's what they think. That's what they think black femininity is. That's what they think black female sexuality is. They think black masculinity is NBA Youngboy. That's what they think. That's what they have been conditioned. So of course they're going to absorb, and I know I'm going off on this done became part 2 of the last video, but y'all deal with it. The fact of the matter is that the primary consumers of hip hop music are and have been white males of a certain age, going all the way back to the 90s. So I don't want to hear all this respectability politics BS coming from y'all talking about, black folks, we need to do better. Black folks, we need to bada, because the white folks is just going to find another minstrel show. They're just going to find somebody else to tap dance for them. And then what you going to say? You know what I mean? So again, I don't understand why some of y'all are still getting so pressed over what white people think. You know what I mean? Take care of your own house. You feel me? There are enough artists out here who do not promote that image. It's wild because I bet you can name all of the coochie rappers. You can name all of the coochie rappers, but you can't name a single no-name track. You don't know about Lil Sims. You don't know about Rhapsody. You know what I mean? You don't know about Backwash. You don't know about all of these female rappers. You dig what I'm saying? That are rapping consciousness. You don't know about none of them. But you want to sit up there and make a video talking about some rap. Get out of my face with that. Anyway, back onto the main highway. I might have to edit that part out, man. Y'all see how aggravated that whole discussion anyways, so as far as Big X the Plug, man, here's the thing. And as a Big X the Plug enjoyer, I ain't enjoy that last album he did. That was trash. But as a Take Care enjoyer, you know, and this is what I talked about getting into the piece that Fantano can't get into, and that's that at the end of the day, a lot of this is rooted in anti-blackness. A lot of this is rooted in internalized racism. You know what I mean? A lot of this is rooted in the idea that what black people create and what black people do has no value outside of what's given to it by non-black folk. You know what I mean? Again, going back to the whole rap fatigue thing. You feel me? The reason why people have rap fatigue is because, you know, the type of music that they're fatigued of does not align with respectability politics. And what is the purpose of respectability politics? It is to mimic, it is to imitate what are considered stereotypical white behaviors, white norms and mores and values as closely as possible, for the purpose of, even if not assimilating into white culture, well, white society, because there is no white culture, assimilating with whiteness, because black people could never fully assimilate into whiteness, because I mean, duh, nigga, but to at least get a few crumbs from off the table. You dig what I'm saying? So you got to do what the white folks do in order to make the white folks comfortable enough with you to say, all right, yeah, you worth something. That's what, at the end of the day, once you start peeling back the layers, that's what a lot of this comes down to. And so when it comes to hip hop music, this is the reason why you have so many people, rappers included, who do not view rap music as true artistry. Another big part of that is because the entry point into hip hop is so low. Really, all you need is a pen and a pad to be a rapper. You dig what I'm saying? You don't need to know how to play an instrument. You don't need to know how to do any of those things. So you got a lot of people, you know, somebody made a comment on the last video that said, you know, I don't have rap fatigue, but I am fatigued of all, you know, these suburban white kids, you know, trying to, you know, rap like, trying to, you know, be the next great trap rapper. And the reason why they're able to do that is because, again, the entry point is so low. At this point, all you need is to find a beat that you like on YouTube and to write over top of it. You know what I mean? So you got a lot of people who have not invested a whole lot. You dig what I'm saying? I'll say for it, I'll give y'all for an example for me, right? Is, before I went off to college, if it hadn't been for my family talking me down, I would have did one or two things. Well, really not even one or two things. The main thing I was going to do was that I was going to do music professionally, right? And so the amount of money that I had invested, of my own money and of other people's money, into the equipment that I had, you feel me? Not just counting, the guitar, but the amps, the pedals, the pedal board, even just the cables to plug stuff into. You feel me? That's a lot. That's a big investment. And when you come from the type of socioeconomic background that I came from, you're not going to invest that kind of money into something that you're not serious about. You dig what I'm saying? Or for most people, you're not going to invest that, or at the very least, the people around you are not going to invest money into that hobby if they don't believe that you're serious, because that money could go on paying a bill. That money could get the car fixed. You know what I mean? Again, if you trying to rap, though, this isn't to say that rappers don't invest a lot, but I'm saying that you don't have to invest as much. And so therefore, again, you get Post Malone, you get these people, who just use rap as a vehicle and then say, all right, now that I got a platform, or all right, now that I'm serious, now I can hop into what I really want to do. You know what I mean? And it's just so wild to me when I hear somebody say, I want to be bigger than rap, because again, like I said yesterday, hip hop is everywhere. Not just in music today. Everything has an 808 everything has an 808 and a trap beat now. Everything has an 808 and a snare in it now. That's hip hop's influence. You know what I mean? People keep bringing up this point and I keep forgetting to repeat it. But the main reason, because I talked about all of the other reasons why, we had that period where there were no hip hop tracks in the top 40. The main reason is because Billboard changed the rules where a bunch of songs that would have been considered hip hop the day before were no longer considered as such. You feel me? That's the reason. It's not because of no coon ass rap fatigue, whatever y'all talking about. That's not why hip hop. It was because the rules were changed. You feel me? That's why hip hop dropped out of the top 40. And even then, the whole point of hip hop, you feel me? Hip hop, very much like punk, and this is probably a big reason why I gravitated toward punk. Matter of fact, it is. I've said it in so many videos in the main channel that this was the reason why I gravitated toward punk when hip hop was going full commercial in the 2000s, was because I was missing that radical, that, anti-authority, F you, I won't do what you tell me type of DIY ethos that had been, tied to hip hop. Matter of fact, this is a big reason why a bunch of hip hop heads and punks, used to be in the same circles with each other when, the genres were first coming into beginning to exist, right? Is because they have a lot of the same DNA. You know what I mean? So I say that to say, hip hop being out of the mainstream to me means that the genre is getting back to its roots of being anti-establishment, of being authoritarian, of being, DIY, of being, F you, I won't do what you tell me. I don't see how you can see that as a bad thing, especially if you want to, play, Zero Sugar, Aaron Magruder. You dig what I'm saying? Mr. Fake Black Power. You want to be Mrs. Fake Black Power. I don't see how you'll have a problem with, the most blackety black art form today getting back to its blackety black roots. I don't see how, but whatever. I digress, right? I done lost my train of thought. But yeah, it all comes back to this. It all comes back to this thing about anti-blackness, right? Is that even today, despite the outsized impact and I said this in the Jazz O video, right? At the end of the Jazz O video, despite the outsides hit, because even in our language, if you say stuff like, if you say bling, if you say word is bond, if you say, you know, any of that, that is hip hop's influence. And I know that might be a little old school, but based, for example, I see all these people, you know, on the internet, all of these, you know, these internet kids talking about this is bass, that's bass, all of this is bass. That comes from hip hop. That comes from Lil B. You know what bass comes from? You feel me? Bass comes from bass head, which is slang for a crackhead. That's where bass comes from. You know what I mean? Even Lil B, because a lot of y'all said, oh, it came from Lil B. It came from, even Lil B said that that's where it came from. You feel me? Is that they used to call him a bass head. You feel me? Making fun of him. So he wound up, turned it into a positive. But that's where bass comes from. Public Enemy has a whole song called Night of the Living Bassheads. It's talking about crackheads. You know what I mean? If you wear J's as part of your regular ensemble, if you wear Air Maxes, if you wear shell-toed Adidas, if you wear Timbs, all of that comes from hip hop. Not just black, but specifically hip hop culture. So much of hip hop culture has been, you know, integrated in and whitewashed to become American culture. But no, that's hip hop, dog. And so it really throws me how Baddie, but pretty much all of TikTok talk, pretty much a perfect example is that I got so irked, you feel me, as a Philly Metro native. You feel, I told you I've spent my entire life, my entire life from womb and likely to tomb, somewhere within the 30-mile radius between the cities of Trenton, New Jersey and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so I've been hearing people say, you know, the phrase, well, the term John my whole life, right? It was not until a few years ago, like literally within like the past 5 years, that I started seeing and hearing white people say John. And people say, oh, you know, John is a fit. No, it ain't just a Philly term. That is a black Philadelphian term. But the white folks got a hold of it and then just said, oh, it's for all of us. It's for everyone now. You dig what I'm saying? So that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about, is that so much of y'all's language, so much of y'all's, you know, linguistic comes specifically from hip hop culture. Bay comes from hip hop culture. You feel me? I'll leave on this note, right? I'll wrap up by saying this. In the immortal words of Paul Mooney, everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga. You feel me? And that is the root of all of this, you know, rap fatigue, all of this, you know, I want to be bigger than hip hop, all of this, oh, you know, well, hip hop is not in the top 40. That's really the root of all of this, is that everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga. So yeah, there y'all had that. Deuces.